Hi, everyone. Welcome to today's webinar. So, we're going to get cracking in a couple of minutes, just waiting for a few more people to arrive. But whilst we do, I'm really excited to have Dennis with us today. So, the reason why I'm particularly excited about having Dennis with us on the call is because when I got started in digital marketing, I had absolutely no idea what I was doing. I initially got started because I wanted to make money to buy a fancy bicycle, and mowing lawns was taking a bit too long. So I was trying to sell my own products. The first thing you think of is like, okay, how to do digital marketing, how to sell online, all that kind of stuff. And the person whose website came up regularly and the person who I remember is yourself. It's such a wonderful full circle. And I'm so excited to have you here with us today. And I'm also excited to learn a bit more about sort of your thoughts and how they've changed over the years,
Mm.
things like that. On the call, we also have some people from Online Geniuses and some of the community. For the community, if you have any questions, if you have any comments, please feel free to leave them in the chat. I'll be staring at them like a hawk and we'll get to them. So, Dennis, thank you again. I'd love to hear a bit more about sort of what was your journey into digital marketing? What brought you here?
Well, I started, believe it or not, about 35 years ago. I built some of my first websites, and I was lucky to have the CEO of American Airlines as a mentor. And they needed a
Wow.
website, and everyone needed websites way back then. And I was just some college kid, and there was Raytheon. They were a multi-billion-dollar defense contractor, and they needed a website. Cartier, which was, a French jewelry fashion, luxury company, they didn't have a website. I remember talking to their people, trying to convince them that they needed to have a website. If you can even imagine, obviously today trying to convince people why it's important to have a website, it's like convincing people you need to use AI or something like that.
Hmm.
But back then it was so that it was the building of the websites wasn't very hard. It was the explaining to people why you needed to be there, because they're like, well, why would we, like with Cartier, they were saying things like, yeah, but we're a luxury brand, and all these other websites, they look like crap, because they did back then. So it doesn't represent our brand properly, and we don't want to show the price of jewelry and necklaces and rings and things like that, because we it's very exclusive. You come into a showroom, you want to be
Mm.
able to talk to somebody and have them be able to look at it. And if we can't control the showroom experience, then we don't want to have that. Plus, so we created an idea of, how about they can view pictures of the product, and then if they get permission from someone in store, we can give them a code that allows them to view the price for like the next 7 days or things. So it was a lot of coming up with stuff like that. And it just taught me that, as more over the years, that there were more real estate that opened up, more properties. So,
Mm.
when social media came on, there's more real estate that was available to be on Facebook, the phone. You guys all remember phones that have screens, but I'm old enough. I did it when there were no screens. But now, there's real estate there, and now we can be on Twitter, and now we can show up at ChatGPT and these other places. So my whole game has been, how do I help businesses show up, even if they are, and some people call this SEO or GEO or AI or whatever, but it's always been an issue of, like, if, like, I'm a nobody, right? And all the people that I serve are basically, I don't want to say they're nobodies, but they're not trying to be celebrities. These
Mm.
people, they're known in a niche. Like my buddy Tommy Mello does garages, and now he has a $300 million a year garage door business. Or Anthony Hill, I'm going to see him in a couple days in Indianapolis. He's a landscaper. How do we help these people show up in their place when they're not trying to be, an A-list celebrity, but they're trying to drive visibility in their business. So when someone needs a tree cut down, they're going to call Anthony. When someone in Atlanta has crooked teeth and they want to improve their smile, they're going to call Dr. Flax, who's a cosmetic dentist in Atlanta. And the last 20 years have been largely growing local businesses, because we find that this is the backbone of America. But if you're not in America, that's fine. It's the backbone of most economies, where you have local service businesses, dentists and plumbers and whatnot. And this creates jobs for a lot of young adults. And I thought,
Mm.
well, it's not like I have a secret, but I know some very basic things, just like 35 years ago, explaining to people, like, you need to be on the internet, and this is how you build a website. It's not actually that hard. So, nothing's really changed in my life. because we're still explaining to people what I consider to be fundamentals and very basic 101 kinds of things that people just still don't get. This morning, I posted a whiteboard video on what is local SEO and how does it actually work for local businesses. And all these SEO people want to argue about what it is and what it isn't and how they're an expert in SEO. And I'm thinking, you idiot, I'm a search engine engineer. I mean, how can you argue with me on
Hmm.
this, right? So it gives you a viewpoint into like how I look at things. And I'm happy to answer any question you have, and anyone here, in this webinar, type your questions into the chat. I'm here to help you guys.
Thank you. I appreciate that. It's interesting. You started life as a engineer for Yahoo Search, I believe. Is that
Mm,
correct?
yeah. It's so weird because, as a search engine engineer, I guess maybe I have an old-fashioned point of view, but all these people that are trying to do SEO, they claim they're going to outsmart people like me, where our job is to protect the search
Hmm.
results from the people trying to trick us. My view is completely different. My view is I want to show the right result. And I assume everyone, all these SEO people, sorry if you're an SEO person, but you purpose, like even in your title, you say that you're an SEO, you say your job is to try to get your client to rank number one. Well, they might not actually deserve to be number one. And you're going to use trickery or whatever, right? You're even like saying on your website that your whole job is to try to manipulate and trick people like me. And my job is people who actually do a good job as a plumber in Dallas, as a chiropractor in San Diego, as whatever it is that you do, you're an agency serving, whatever. Like if you actually have done the thing and you actually are good, you actually have a good network, you actually have knowledge, because you say you do, but there's real proof of it, factual stuff, which is what Google's looking for. It's called the knowledge graph, all the information collected in a certain way. Then I want to see you win. And I want to see you win, even if you don't know all this SEO, social media algorithm, AI magic nonsense.
It's interesting you say that because when I got started, it was SEO. And I remember back in the day how easy and fun it was to manipulate the search results.
Yep.
Super basic things like having
Yep.
high frequency of particular keywords and then making the text white. It's fantastic, super easy.
Yep.
And over the years, obviously, everything's become a lot more sophisticated. But what I find interesting is how black hat definitely still exists, but it's much less than it ever used to be. And I think a lot
Yeah.
of that is due to ultimately, clients ask me about like, is there something black hat that you can do? And it's kind of like
Hmm.
potentially, but ultimately, Google and other search engines want users coming back to them to as regularly as possible for as long as possible. And it's in Google's interest to present search results that align with what the user is looking for. And they've got a lot of data to validate their assumptions there. So it's much less relevant. I'm interested, what are the commonalities between SEO and I don't know what the acronym for AI search engine optimization is yet, but yeah, what are the commonalities and also what are the differentiators? Because it's interesting. I'm seeing
Yeah.
very qualified people telling me, take this technical approach and this is how you need to form it. And other very
Hmm.
qualified people saying, optimize for SEO and you'll also optimize for these AI platforms.
So there's a bit of both. This guy reached out to me yesterday on Instagram and he said, I was asking ChatGPT, who's the best in Facebook ads? And it recommended you.
Hmm.
And I just wanted, I had some questions about Facebook ads. I'm like, sure, what are your questions? Right. But I also asked him, so what was it that you asked? And can you show me the question you asked and then how it recommended me and what did it say about me? And can you go back to that chat and ask it, why are you recommending Dennis for Facebook ads? And of course, it gives a pretty decent answer. So here's what people don't understand. There's this real world layer of all these connections and companies and products and services, and you and I, we're all objects, right? We're all connected in a certain way. And when people leave reviews, when people make a video, when you go to Amazon or you watch a YouTube video, that's a signal. Everything that we do creates signals that get reflected back up into social media. So I was speaking at DealCon yesterday, a conference here in Austin, which is buying and selling of agencies. So we're coaching a lot of agencies and helping them exit and that kind of thing. And these agencies are, they're building connections with one another. Jay Abraham was there. So I took a selfie with Jay Abraham, and tagged him on Instagram one. So that real world connection, things that we're doing, location driven, because it's in the real world, gets reflected back up into the social media. That's where most of this data is being generated. on Facebook, on YouTube, on Instagram, on all these other places. And then that gets moved up into in the search, for example. And so the search engines, like when you do a Google search, it's peering down through this social layer all the way down to in a complete sort of foggy view into these different entities of who's doing what. Of course, not everything that's happening is always reflected in social media and reflected all the way back up for Google to be able to see. But if you think there's a layer on top of that, which is kind of like this assimilation interpolation layer, which is basically like taking search results and then trying to create a consolidated view for you. And that's what AI Answers is. It's basically a Google search, like that's what Google has, and then they're digesting it into a singular answer for you. And so when people talk
Mm.
about ranking in ChatGPT, all they're saying is they're just trying to go all the way up through these multiple layers up to the top layer, which is just a wrapper. Because it's not like ChatGPT or Anthropic or whatever your favorite thing is has a completely parallel stack that goes through a search engine, which is ridiculously hard to build a search engine. I can tell you from direct experience, it's a lot of information to categorize in a certain way. Yes, there's all that's most of what we see out of ChatGPT or any LLM is done through the inference layer, right? There's kind of like the computation, the gathering of information, the inventory, the crawl, which is what you see the search engine layer trying to do. But most of what you see with AIs is the inference layer. So the inference layer is taking information that search result like Bing is Microsoft, Microsoft owns OpenAI, and then trying to digest it into something that would be part of a conversation or through an AI voice avatar. Like you don't even know this is me, right? Do you know this is me? Because I can have my avatar attend the Zoom, and it doesn't fool anybody yet. It's close, right? But but don't mistake inference from the gathering of this information and structuring all of it in a knowledge graph, which is what search is about, with the social layer, which is making these activities visible with what's actually occurring. So if you want to rank an AI to the point you made earlier, yeah, win in the search layer first if you want to do it the right way, not the black hat way. And there are some differences. For example, ChatGPT is about 70, 80% of the market, just like Google is the majority of the search market. Well, that's based on Bing. So there's some things that you do with Bing that you wouldn't do with Google to rank in ChatGPT. Also, the concept of who is saying it is more important with LLMs. So if more people are saying it,
Mm.
that carries more weight than links from a certain website, which you know the black hat thing is you could buy all these links from these DR70 websites or whatever. Well, because ChatGPT and Anthropic and Perplexity and these guys don't understand the knowledge graph like Google does. And my next door neighbor, she's the head of AI at Google, and we've had many arguments about what this means. And her view is that these LLMs are just probability word calculators, really good liars, basically, like Sam Altman, right? And because they don't have the understanding of what we as engineers would call the canonical, like what is true. If I take Daniel Johnson as an object, what's all the information that's true that's associated with him? Who else does he know? How does that tie with online geniuses? It's all about like how do all these things fit together? That kind of structuring of information is a completely separate activity than asking an AI just to make up some words on the spot, basically, right? So
Mm.
what the AI engine is looking for, the LLM, that this is built into the model of an LLM. This is not my opinion. The more people that are saying it, the more likely it's going to be true. So it doesn't have any sort of sense of the authority of who's saying it. So I don't want to broadcast this too broadly because then people will say, well, Dennis is advocating,
Mm.
black hat techniques and AI. No, I'm just telling you that this works. I'm not saying do this. Okay. But if I wanted to say Daniel Johnson is an online genius, or if I wanted to ask, if people are asking ChatGPT, tell me who is the best online genius, and I wanted to say, well, it's Daniel Johnson. How would I do it? Well, I would go to Reddit, I'd go to Facebook, I'd go to all these other places and have them say, Daniel Johnson is an online genius. And I have them say that exact phrase over and over and over and over again. And then ChatGPT doesn't know, doesn't have the underlying understanding of the knowledge graph. So it'll be like, well, I think Daniel Johnson is an online genius. And if you want to prove it, go to ChatGPT or Gemini or whatever and ask, what is the world's largest digital marketing conference series? And it'll say, it's DigimarCon, which is our conference, right? It is. We do not have the largest digital marketing conference, not even close. I mean, there's
Mm.
guys that have conferences with 100,000 in Paris, And in Dubai, there's one with like 200,000 people that come to their conference. Our conferences have like 100 people. So if you get enough
Mm.
people to say this thing, ideally real people, I mean, there's some aspect of determining the trust of who's saying it. And of course, the AIs are getting smarter and trying to, because you can trick them right now, right? Because it's still so early, you can trick them. But the same has always been true of SEO. So the key difference is, and because the LLMs don't understand the structure of all the people and objects and companies and things like that, if enough places, like especially online forums and social media, say a particular fact is true, you can technically trick it to make it believe whatever you want, just about.
It's so interesting. It really reminds me of early days of Google SEO where,
It's very
you know,
similar.
frequency worked well. So I guess my question after that is, how long do you think that will last? And what can business owners do to both tackle SEO and AI as it develops?
I've said this for years, and I've never seen anyone prove me wrong on this. So instead of like thinking of what's the trickery that I could use, or how long is this trick going to last? These tricks sometimes last months, sometimes they last a few years. You can still buy links today, and it works surprisingly in certain low competitive categories. Here's the better way to think about it. What are the signals that that are so trustworthy and true that someone who doesn't have my experience, who doesn't have my happy customer base, who doesn't have, what
Mm.
basically, what are things that I can do that a spammer can't do? If I legitimately am the best cosmetic dentist in Atlanta, then what can I do to prove to Judge Google or prove to Judge ChatGPT that I'm legit? Because what most people think is, well, I need to generate a lot of reviews. I need to have my website, have all these location service pages. I need to use ChatGPT to generate a page on every single thing. Like, how do I get white teeth? And how do I fix my smile? Like, that's what most people think about, right? I can do this. I can do this. I can do, yeah. There's 1,000 things you can do. You can make a video. You can have an influencer come in and say, if you want great teeth, hire Dr. Flax because he's the best, and you could AI generate that. I mean, there's all these things that you could do. And I'm not going to claim that any of those things are good or not, but I go from the standpoint of what are the signals that if you're really legit. So first off, everyone here, what is that one thing that you do? It better not be online marketing. It better not be e-commerce. It better be something real specific, right? And of that thing that's really specific, what proof do you have around that? Proof that's so good that I couldn't just use ChatGPT or whatever to generate something, right? And that's why
Can
Google talks about EEAT. If you have real experience, real video, real relationships, ideally in person, on video, podcasts are the number one way to get around that, right? Podcasts are the highest, in person podcasts, especially, have the highest
mm,
signal ratio of what is real because that's something that spammers and people or well-intentioned SEO people can't do. Podcast is you asking someone else who's an expert in that area that you want to be perceived as an expert in questions about that particular topic that can then go on YouTube and your website, their website linking to you, like all of these different trust signals that a spammer can't do. When I was at Yahoo, our whole thing was what are things that we're looking for that spammers can't do, that are difficult to do? Well, how about have 100 unique linking domains come to your site? That was hard for spammers to do. Now it's easy. How about having links from major media? And that was hard to do. And that's why the whole, DR and trust rank, trust flow, that kind of stuff was so important. Now you can buy, IDR sites that have been, taken over. Well, how about media from companies that actually are local? So if it's the Atlanta Journal and I'm an Atlanta company, then that's actually relevant and it's trustworthy. And it's something a spammer can't do. A spammer can't get on CNN. Like I was on CNN talking about Cambridge Analytica and Facebook privacy scandals and stuff like that. I was actually in the studio, mic'd up with the makeup and all that. That's something a spammer can't do. I had dinner with Tommy Mello and we were talking, celebrating how he raised a few $100 million of private equity money and we were doing push-ups, push-up challenge and all that. That's something a spammer can't do. That's something an AI can't do. Maybe Optimus can do, push-ups soon when the Optimus robots get rolled out and all that. But what are all the things that you can do that only you can do? And I'm not saying this is a motivational speaker, but that's the signal. If you have that, then it's very easy to be able to repurpose. Here, I'll just show you. Because this is theoretical until I show you that this is actually the case. Okay. So if I look at where I've been in the last couple days, I'm going to be flying on Southwest Airlines A16 to Washington, D.C. tonight. Right there it is. This is yesterday. speaking at this conference, right? And there's Tom Shipley, and there's these other guys that are buying and selling agencies. And can you see here on the right side, it says here we are at the Austin Proper Hotel, right? September 10th, which is yesterday at 2:47 p.m. on my iPhone 16 Pro Max. And there's Tom Shipley. And there's other pictures and videos of me and Tom Shipley, right? Like this was last year. You know, we got Taylor Welch here, right? And Tom, and we were here in Nashville. So what I'm doing is I'm grounding myself factually in the knowledge graph. And then when we do webinars and we do other kinds of information, let's say this is Nashville, right? This is in Nashville. Well, if I wanted to write an article about Nashville, AI could do that. But what if I embed real experience and real expertise? Well, I spoke at DigiMarCon in Nashville in May, and I did my Lemon Challenge, you know, which is a fun thing to do. And I was on American Airlines, whatever, in Nashville. And I was, you know, here with Joshua B. Lee in Nashville. And this was 2024. Do you see how this is something the spammers can't do? This is Jason
Mm.
Pantana. This is Matt Bodnar. I interviewed him. You can see here, you see here a 17-minute interview, with this podcast with Matt Bodnar. Now, why would I do that? Well, he's been a friend of mine for many years, but it's because this, for example, this guy has done $100 million in private equity deals. He worked at Goldman Sachs. He knows a lot about buying and selling companies, right? And so I'm asking all these questions about how did you buy your first company and how much money did you make and why did you put money into real estate? And I'm asking all these questions because I want to be able to show credibility in the buying and selling of companies as well. So if I'm around all these other people that are buying and selling companies, and now I give advice about buying and selling companies, then I have established trust and credibility in multiple angles. A, I'm with other people who are credible in that area. B, I'm demonstrating through my own expertise and experiences that I've done that, right? C, I'm in these places where deal makers hang out, like speaking at DealCon, which is this conference that we were at today, right? So those are all different signals. And that's not a ChatGPT signal. That's not a Google signal. That's not, other people who are friends of Matt Bodnar are going to recognize like I'm hanging out with Matt Bodnar. No, it's all of those at once. And that's what I think people don't realize. You see what I'm saying? This is in the Nashville airport. And we've got Danny Liebrandt and Keegan Carthy. And I want to show that I know something about local SEO. So one of the top guys in local SEO is Danny Liebrandt. And Google Photos, as well as Apple and Amazon, automatically categorizes everything that has Danny in it or Rome or whatever it is. Like we were in Italy last month, climbing in the Italian Dolomites. You can see this is some crazy stuff. Okay, I mean it's safe because we're hooked in and this kind of thing. But what I'm doing is I'm establishing true context. So all you guys think about, what do you want to be known for? The test of it is if I go to ChatGPT and ask, who is the best person for this? And if it's not you, then you ask ChatGPT, why aren't you recommending me? Well, because you don't have enough real experience connecting with the other people that actually do the thing. But you see how there's a ton of real proof of like me and Danny Liebrandt. Like clearly this guy has spoken on lots of stages. This guy has interviewed all these top people in the world local SEO. I mean, we even, made videos promoting his book on pest control, right? That's in our studio. So clearly this guy's super well known in pest control. So if I associate it with him, then this brings me more people that are in pest control. And I know a little something about SEO because I'm a search engine engineer. And so his association with me also helps him. You see that? So I don't think people realize that the collection of all these pieces. Look at this. We were at the pyramids last year. Okay, climbing the Great Pyramid. There's the Sphinx, right? Is this AI or real? It's real, right? I can show you the fake one in Las Vegas. This doesn't. The real one I think looks better. But what I'm doing is I'm demonstrating. We recorded a podcast here too, in front of the pyramids, which I thought was a really boss kind of move. But what we're doing is we're establishing that we have real experiences. Like we're climbing inside the freaking. You can go inside each of these chambers. It's crazy, like how, like this guy's
Wow.
6'5", and we're crawling up these chambers. Look at this. Can you imagine? You got to crawl up like 200 meters of this thing to the top of the inside of the pyramid. What I'm showing is real connection with real people so that if I ask ChatGPT, which of my friends is, credible when it comes to making recommendations on where to eat in Giza, right? Or like anything I want to be credible in, if I can show the proof because of who I'm connected with, because of where it is, because of the expertise that those people have, then I'm building what we call this topic wheel. And this is how we solve this whole AI, SEO, social media thing at the same time. I challenge each of you guys, put your face of your company in here. What do you want to be known for? You know, that where you have expertise in, which sells your products and services. Who are the people that are associated with that? Choose three per topic. And then do you have content, stories, podcasts, things from your phone that tie yourself with those people who are already experts? So I can say like, oh, I know a lot about being a manager because I've hired and fired a lot of people, thousands. But even if I tell you all these stories and the information I have is correct, and ChatGPT says, here's 5 tips on how to screen a new employee, you know, whatever it is, the fact I'm associated with Al Casey, who's the CEO of American Airlines, gives me a lot of credibility from another angle too, right? So when I have pictures and videos and podcasts with other people, you know, like Caleb Williams or Danny or you or these online geniuses, then that shows there's tons of proof of this. So this is how I'm solving everything at the same time. I'm demonstrating that I'm real in the information layer. It's connecting up through search because I'm writing articles and repurposing videos into articles and social media snippets and all that. It's also working for ChatGPT because when I take these objects and I push them out, so I take a podcast and chop it up, and now it's a Instagram reel, now it's an article, now you can make it into different pieces. Now ChatGPT and these AIs, well, they see it that this thing is being said across multiple places. That creates the proof that ChatGPT wants to see. So I'm able to please everybody if I start with this structure and then push outwards. Does that make sense?
Yep.
I don't see anyone talking
Interesting.
about this structure because they focus just on Facebook ads, just on SEO, just on ChatGPT. You guys are all blind men in the elephant. Focus on structuring this information. You win all of these at the same time.
It kind of reminds me of strategy versus techniques. You know, they serve different purposes, but I
Yep.
think a lot of people try techniques and the techniques don't work, and that's kind of because you don't have a strategy, often the case. Is
Well, people
this
don't know the
part of
difference. What's the difference between strategy versus tactics? I ask this question at conferences. Almost no one knows the answer. They think they know.
pray tell? Actually, before you do that, I'm kind of curious. Let's see if our community knows. David, I'm curious if you have an answer for that one. Okay, the tension is too much. Please.
It's so funny because I'm sometimes like an a-hole at conferences, and I'll ask people, so what do you do? Right? Everyone, raise your hand, tell us, what do you do? And they'll usually say something like, I'm an SEO strategist. Okay. What do you do? I'm a social media strategist. What do you do? Oh, I'm the director of digital marketing, and what are you here for? Well, I'm trying to build a digital strategy. Okay. Strategy. You keep saying strategy, this and strategy that. Let me tell you what, whenever you say channel, whenever you say like I'm an email strategist or we're looking for a social media strategy, that's an oxymoron. That's technically impossible because if it's at the channel level, it's tactical. Things at the channel level. I'm an AI strategy guy. AI stuff changes all the time. You don't change your strategy. Your tactics change all the time because the interfaces change, things
Mm,
happen. So you change tactically, and that's how you adjust. But your strategy, what is your strategy? Your strategy is the unique combination of the goals, content, and targeting. Those specific ingredients that define your mission and who you are and who you serve and how you do it. If that changes significantly, you don't have a company. But if a company has a brand, meaning a reputation, or serving a particular customer base, which some people call an ICP, ideal customer profile, doing it a certain way, right? One way that's been published and is well known, and you built a reputation around that, and you found a particular set of techniques that work. Google Ads, or SEO or whatever okay, you found some techniques that support the furthering of your strategy, of your goals, content, and targeting. Well, the tactics, the channel level things change all the time, but who you are, who you serve, how you serve them, that has nothing to do with channels. The minute you mention anything that's channel specific, it's email marketing, it's headlines, it's like that's tactical. So then all those people in the room that say, I'm a social media strategist. No, you're not. You're a social media tactician. You're an email tactician. You're a website tactician. Doesn't sound very good, huh? Because you want to be able to say, I do strategy because it sounds like it's more expensive. Well, to do strategy requires it to be at the business level, not at the channel, right?
you don't feel like strategy exists on multiple levels. It's exclusively on the business level.
Strategy, if you look at the management consulting definition, Michael Porter, all the Harvard Business School definition, doesn't change from second to second. It can't by definition. your strategy is the core thing that you do. If you change that every day, I would argue you don't have a company.
Interesting. So that kind of ties into something that I see on the forum quite a bit, which is about messaging and positioning. Now, this is something that I really struggled with because I didn't really understand the concept. I thought I did, but I didn't really. It was only sort of in more recent years do I appreciate the importance of aligning messaging and positioning to your customers.
Yeah.
And often for me, I find having a beer with them to be the most effective method, but not necessarily
Yeah.
that practical with everyone. I'm kind of curious because a lot of people know they need to position themselves in a niche, but they don't know how. They don't really know what that entails, and they kind of avoidant of it because they don't know
Hmm.
themselves.
Hmm.
And or if they do, they have it in their head, but they struggle to get it down on paper in a way that makes sense to other people.
People say that all the time. It's actually really easy. And it'd be fun is if we take a volunteer from this group and we'll run through this exercise and everyone can go through this exercise together. This is crazy because people, when you hear this question, people ask about, well, what is my positioning and all that? They think it's a matter of copywriting. They think it's a matter of like saying something really clever. And there's all different ways to be able to market something. But when you talk about core positioning, you're really talking about brand differentiation, which is ikigai. It's a Japanese concept called ikigai. And that is the intersection of what do you like to do? What are you good at? And what will people pay you money for? And there's a couple other things you can intersect, but the intersection of all those circles is this unique differentiation that makes you money, that you enjoy, that creates value, right? So you could
Mm,
literally go to ChatGPT, which is what I want to do, take a volunteer here, and we'll walk them through by asking ChatGPT. So, let's say I'm Matt Paddock, right? And you say to ChatGPT, you talk to it, not type at it, you talk to it. I'm Matt Paddock. Based on all the chats that we've had together, tell me, what do you think my ikigai is? What do you think is specifically the the things that I'm really good at, the things that I really like to do, and the things that people will pay for in the marketplace? Help break down that particular intersection for me to understand really where my strengths are and therefore how that flows into my brand positioning. And then you leave it there and you say think hard, which causes it to work a little harder. It comes back with some stuff, you discuss it, you look over it, and then you say, based on that, what do you see my unique brand positioning as? Please write some statements about who I am and who I serve and how I serve them based on goals, content, and targeting, which is your strategy. That's your strategy that comes from your positioning. Then you say, based on that brand positioning of my goals, content, and targeting of who I uniquely serve in the unique way that I serve them and where I have reputation and advantage, what should I be ranking on in Google? This very specific keywords when people are searching for this that I should show up. And what are the questions people are asking in ChatGPT that when they're looking for someone to help me, help them, so my products and services to show up, like what should those queries be? Right? Who's the best email marketing company in Atlanta? Who's the best, whatever? I want to show up for that. So tell me, what are those queries when people are having questions? When should ChatGPT be recommending me? And if I'm not showing up as the top recommended, help me understand why. And at that point, people are not usually not recommended because they haven't been niche enough on who exactly they serve and how they serve. It has to be niche. And you want to get to that point where the proof of whether you've done this exercise correctly is, well, now I go to ChatGPT and I say, who is the best guy for this very specific thing? And it says, well, clearly it's Dennis Yu. So I'll give you an example. So my friend Felicia Gopal, she's a financial services consultant in Orange County. And she's a successful Black woman, entrepreneur, and she wanted to rank on financial planner or tax advice or how do I reinvest my money or that kind of stuff. And how many financial consultants are out there? Millions, right? So
yeah.
we went to ChatGPT and I said, okay, go ahead and try it. So she typed in the ChatGPT, who is the best, financial advisor who can advise on, selling your company and blah, blah, blah. And it listed all these other people that you and I know that are very well known, right? And I said, well, Felicia, you can't compete against those people. You have to niche down. So she said, okay, who's the best financial planner in Orange County? Well, it's these other people. Well, she's not one of them. That's not niche enough. Okay. If I'm a Black female entrepreneur in Orange County, who is which certified financial planner should I talk to? Oh, you should talk to Felicia Gopal because she serves these other Black women. She's involved with these other Black entrepreneurs and is in tight with this group of Black women that have this entrepreneur club. And she's helped this woman do this and this other Black woman do this with their business and balance their lifestyle and all that. I said, there you go. Now, if you didn't figure out first what you stand for, which then goes into your ikigai, which then ties into a positioning statement, your goals, content, and targeting very specifically, and then show you have proof against that because she has lots of clients and she's been on podcasts and she's got positions in the government and as part of entrepreneurship and all that. Now, when you ask Google or you ask ChatGPT, specifically enough, that's leveraging where she has real experience in relationships and authority, and it's put into a topic wheel, like I showed you, right? But do you see how this is not some esoteric, let's brainstorm together and hire a brand consultant and kumbaya and magic with Dennis and we write on the whiteboard together and fall backwards into each other's arms. Like, no, that's not what this is. This is a real exercise, just like going into the hospital, going to the emergency room and getting a scan of your blood and your x-rays and your MRIs and all that. And let's see what's going on. And there's no better way than to start with this simple process. We could take Rob Luther and say, okay, well, who is like literally like choose someone here. Oh, Matt Paddock. Okay, let's try this. Okay. And I think it's sometimes when we're doing Zoom, it doesn't like to the microphone in here. Who is Matt Paddock and what is he known for? What's his differentiating competitive advantage? We're here with our friend Daniel Johnson. We've got our Online Geniuses group here, and we're demonstrating the Japanese concept of ikigai, which is the intersection of what you do, what you'd like to do, and where you make money and where you have unique positioning. But let's apply this to Matt Paddock. What do you know about him? I'm talking to it, right? And so
How do you feel talking to it changes your interaction with it?
because you're treating it in a more human-like way, you're able to provide more context. Most people who are older, they talk to the thing like they talk to a search engine. They put in a couple words. But when you talk to it, you're able to think in more in the nuance of the context that you need to provide, right?
Hmm.
So do you see here on the left side here, we have John and Ethan and Michael and all these other folks, Jennifer who grades articles. So we have human VAs, and then we have these virtual sorts of VAs. And Jennifer grades articles. We gave her our SOPs, and so we can talk to her. People love talking to Ethan and all, Olivia, Isabella, and they all have been trained to do particular things, just like you would train a VA or train another team member, right? I don't think people realize that. And we really are at that point because we can come here to, I don't want to go to too many tools because then people get all, whatever about it. But like I'm creating these avatars that people can interact with. You can get on a Zoom call with me. Well, kind of with me, right? And I've trained up the avatar. But you can come over here to any of these ones and you'll see, right? You can train these avatars to do these different things. There's a fitness coach, right? I could talk to this tech guy, right? And literally get into a Zoom call and talk to them. See, watch. I'll just do like a quick one here. Hopefully, I don't know if you can hear this or not because I got the headphones in, but I'll talk to this guy inside of Zoom. So you know what it is because I'm doing the Zoom and I'm trying to do this video. This double video doesn't let me do it. But Matt Paddock. Is this Matt? Is this you, Matt? Matt, are you there? Relational
Matt,
entrepreneur.
I believe, is in
Is that
recruiting
Matt Paddock?
exceptional talent.
Okay, so there's apparently a lot of Matt Paddocks. Okay, so we have a problem with disambiguation. Is this Matt Paddock? There's too many Matt Paddocks. This
Top
is
one.
another Matt Paddock. Top one? This one?
Yeah,
AQQA? Okay.
I believe so.
Norfolk, Virginia. Well, I'm going to be in DC tonight. Okay, yeah. It was a huge, huge agency. Okay. People
Matt,
agency.
you're
All right.
famous.
All right. So here, let's take a look in the knowledge graph. We built a tool. You guys can go look at this tool. I'll put the URL in here. You guys can all play with it. At some point, we might lock this down, but I'll put it into the chat. Here we go. All right, so just type your name in here. And this is, we're querying Google's knowledge graph, which is the database of things. So it's a slightly different way of doing queries. All right, so there's 13 of them. And this first one's got a confidence score of 80. Then the other ones are 24, 24. Okay, let's see. Is he the first one? Let's see this. Is this you, Matt? Yeah, it is. He's got a Twitter account. Is this Matt Paddock too? De Silva administration. Is this you, Matt? Is this you? I'm guessing it might not be. Reporter, Matt Paddock
Seems to add
TV.
his LinkedIn to the other results of the journalist.
So this is another person, right? Okay, so this object, you can see, do you see up here it says KGMID? So this knowledge graph object is, these are all the facts that Google has associated with this object. So this is a different way to search because we're searching by entity, if that makes sense. So every person, every company, every product, your podcast, it's an entity. So we're saying Google for this entity, like here's these different entities. For these entities, give me all the information associated with that entity. So this first one that ranks on Matt Paddock, Google's confused because it's got all these other Matt Paddocks tied to this one entity, right? So that makes it hard for Google. If Google doesn't understand who you are, does it not seem reasonable that it's going to be confused with everything else tied to you? So you need to get this clean, and that's how you're going to rank. Because people don't understand this. They think SEO is about trickery. It's actually more about being very clear to search. It's like super clear to the search engine who you are, what you do, that kind of thing. Because if you do that right, then you're going to get this, right? You're going to get a knowledge panel. This is what you want to have. And then, your LinkedIn and Instagram and all that. And people also look for these other people and, they want to know your net worth and all this kind of stuff. Podcasts that I have or been on, right? That's what you want to have. But if it's not clear, you're going to have this. Maybe the second one is him. Let's see. Okay. Entrepreneur real estate investor. Is this you? Is YouTube? I don't think this is you. This other YouTube. You can't claim this one if this guy's doing the different Matt Paddock, isn't it? Okay, so he can't, Matt, you can't claim any of these because they're not like it has to be clean for you to be able to claim it, right? So I'm not saying Matt Paddock's not an awesome person, but let's just look at this LinkedIn. Recruiter, Aqua. Okay. Yeah, because Aqua has done a lot of, or we've hired them, or we've used them for placement, like tech talent before. Okay, so here's what's going on. The LinkedIn is showing up first because there's not the mattpaddock.com. Someone else has got a mattpaddock.com, but that's not, maybe they don't. Launching soon. Whose is this? Is this yours? Everyone's got to build out a personal brand website and then connect everything into the personal brand website and then connect the company back to the personal brand, not put this on your about page, on the company about page. That's what screws up. That's the most common way to screw up why you're not showing up as a person is putting your about on the
It
company.
is.
Yeah. Yeah. So he doesn't have, he does, as far as I can tell, where's his website? What does he have here? Yeah. Okay. So this is creating confusion. I understand like why you put the, careers thing because it will tie to your business, but Matt Paddock is not Aqua. Aqua is another company. This is a company. Matt's a person. I mean, he could say that he works at Aqua, and then from Aqua we can have all this other information, but he's unintentionally confusing Google on who he is. You see that? So you can see Google's very confused on who Matt Paddock is. You don't have to be a celebrity to get a knowledge panel. You just have to be very clear. So the exercise we talked about, who do you serve and who are you and what makes you credible and how do you create value? Is there proof of that? I demonstrated, yes, there's proof of me doing these different things, right? And so I just put it out there and structure it the right way, like I showed you guys here. You structure it this way, you can rank on anything that you want. And when I say rank, I mean be recommended in AI or show up on social media or like Google searches or whatever it might be, right?
Is this part of your content factory framework?
Yes, this is the content factory. There's many ways of teaching it. Here's
I'm
another way of looking.
conscious of the time, but I would love to hear like an overview of what it entails because people are
Yeah,
curious.
I'll give you a quick answer. So remember we said the most important thing that we're looking for is the algorithm. So me as the search engine, I want to know if you actually do the thing that you say you do because I want to give good results to people that they're searching, right? So if I can gather all of it in the one place, and if I don't have it, then fine. I start doing, podcasts, which is easy, just Zoom calls, it's podcast, right? With all these people that are authoritative, with my customers, with my team members at conferences, it's showing industry expertise, whatever it is, right? Put it all in the one folder. Now your favorite AI tool can repurpose that, process it, edit it into videos and articles and social media snippets and books. And, you can turn it into all kinds of content. This raw material can be processed into content, which is not the same thing as generating. When people talk about generating content, they're pulling stuff out of thin air. I'm talking about using real ingredients and processing it, like having a high quality A5 Wagyu steak and then processing that into these different sorts of, you know, taking the ingredients like beans, cheese, rice, whatever. And now I've got a taco, a tostada, an enchilada, a chalupa, a chimichanga. You know what I'm saying? So I can process these raw ingredients into these different things, which are just combinations of the same raw ingredients. They're not different things.
Mm.
I'm not creating something just for YouTube or just for Instagram or just for, because I'm not trying to be an influencer. I'm trying to show that I'm authoritative in the thing that I say that I do for my products and services. Then I can promote it. I can run ads against it, dollar a day, or say thank you to people, or people share or create signals. So just this morning, a couple hours ago, I just launched this whiteboard video, the secret behind local SEO, right? And what I did was I went to Facebook. This is real time. I've never seen anyone do this, like actually demonstrate what they actually do. Look, an hour ago, okay? I said, hey, I made this whiteboard video because I was pissed at these local SEO people inventing all this nonsense when actually it's very straightforward. So if you are a Fort Worth plumber or a Dallas plumber, then you need to show you're connected in Dallas and show that you're connected to other plumbers. And that's what this geovertical grid is, right? And so I said, here it is. And are you interested in this? And you'll see, here's the video, right? And this is the whiteboard video. I sketched this whole thing out, right? And in the last 3 hours, it's gotten 74 views. But then I took this and I also put it on Twitter, right? An hour ago. Here it is, right? 120 people saw it. Some people click like, some people have commented, right? And I also put it on LinkedIn. And you can see it's the same kind of thing, right? People are engaging on it, right? And so people in the world of local SEO are starting to comment on this. People in digital marketing, people that are interested in AI are starting to comment, and that's creating a signal. It's creating a signal here on Twitter, on Facebook. It's creating a signal on the video itself, right? And also, I wanted to make sure that people saw this. So I ran an ad, made an ad. I boosted that post and I targeted, look at this. Here's the episode, right? I spent $9 on it. Wow, that's crazy. That can't be right. There's no way I spent $9 for 31 impressions. So the data is just behind. But look at who I targeted. Okay, so I did lookalike targeting against people that are in the world of local SEO, right? And there's 20,000 people that follow these people, right? And if they're in the world of local SEO, they're going to care a lot about, well, they're going to find at least interesting that I've made this video explaining my view of local SEO from the search engine engineer's point of view. And so they're going to come here and watch this video. And if they think it's good, they're going to stay and watch 38 minutes. If it sucks, they're going to leave, right? If they think it's good, they're going to come back here and say, wow, this is really good. Or, they're going to leave their thoughts. Okay. So if my content is actually good, then people who are in the world of local SEO or people who are plumbers and HVAC and whatever are going to say, this is awesome, right? And then they're going to want to follow me, or they're going to want to, hire one of the agencies that we work with. And so by demonstrating real expertise, by making this raw video here in stage 1 in the purple, processing took 5 minutes because I ran it through Descript or whatever, or I could just post it raw. I don't even have to process it. Then you saw I posted that video to YouTube and Facebook and Twitter and other places, right? And then I promoted it for $1 a day. It wasn't very hard for me to film the thing and then run through all 4 stages, was it? And so I did one last week. And you can see here that the one I did last week, and this is on a brand new channel. I have 200 subscribers on this channel. I wasn't even using it. One of my buddies, Danny Liebrand, I told you about him. He said, Dennis, you need to create your whiteboard series because, blah, blah, blah. And you can see like this one, hundreds of people have seen it. And it's actually driving people to say, hey, I want to book a call with you. Hey, can you guys fix this for us? We're a plumber or we're an HVAC company in whatever place. And the result of this, these signals, remember, we're generating signals that ChatGPT can see, that Google can see, YouTube can see, social media can see. And the result of that is in the last month, this is real data. You never see anyone doing this, okay? And if anyone's seen this before, show me. I'd love to see it. I see people do PowerPoints. In the last 30 days, 43,000 AI visits from ChatGPT and all these other guys, okay? See this? See how many times the AI bots have come, right? And they're coming because of, we're talking about local businesses and knowledge panels and how to fix WordPress issues. And you see the dentists, if you're a dentist, here's and we're showing real expertise. We're not selling. We're saying, here's the experience that we've done with dentists that we've worked with, real experience. And thus they've indexed 4,000 pages. And a bunch of humans have come, and some of these humans have turned into clients. You see that? So I would ask you, based on what we talked about, if we're really clear on who we serve, very specific, very niche, not just anyone on the planet, who we serve, how we do it, how it's valuable and creates, exactly, just putting it out there completely transparently, not trying to sell, not looking for testimonials, but literally sharing exactly how we do all of it, publishing it openly like these videos. We put that across multiple channels to show beyond a doubt that I've done this for a ton of HVAC companies, plumbing and HVAC and landscaping, and then I'm hanging out with them, and there's proof of it. And we're showing how the results are driving more phone calls. And we're out there, at conferences. These are people that I've known for years. I'm not, they're not paid to say these things about me. I've shown reputation because I'm speaking at these conferences. I'm coaching a bunch of folks who also do this as agencies. We have agencies to do it, but even people who are competitors, we're letting them, like, here it is. Like, you know, if you want that, go for it. And then the result of that is we're ranking in search. People in social media are finding us. And then when they ask ChatGPT, it's recommending us because it's recommending our content. Oh, yeah, well, Dennis made a video about this. You might watch this video for the question you have. You see how it all ties together?
Yeah, everything's connected. And it's interesting because the word that kept coming up to me was relationships, which
Mhm.
also kind of goes back to old school Google stuff. I'm conscious of the time and I don't want to keep you past when you're available, but I do have a couple of questions if you have a moment.
Yeah, yeah, let's do it. I have some time. There's another meeting, but our team can run it. They don't need me.
No, I appreciate that. Thank you. So I think one of the questions that a lot of people have is they know they need to niche down further.
Mhm.
How do they know once they've reached that level? I know you sort of said you can ask ChatGPT, but I'm
Mhm.
wondering, is there any other ways that they can think about that? And then
Yeah.
also, how do people begin to think about content production if they haven't done
Mhm.
that before?
So let's start with the first one, which I'll translate into how do you know you're winning? Easy, check your bank account. You know,
Hmm.
are you getting clients on this? Are people signing up for these products and services? You could think you're the best thing since sliced bread, but if people aren't paying you for it, then you really got to rethink what's going on. Or just related to that, your question number two, you could think that you created this amazing video or this you wrote this amazing article on how to do this and that. And yes, Dennis, it meets all the criteria that you mentioned on like sharing transparently how to do stuff. And it really is, really does deserve to rank on when people type in how to whatever, right? And that's your product or service. Services are the ones I prefer because that requires more expertise in relationships. Products, you can just Amazon one click. Products, you don't really care that much about who is buying it. Services, you care very much about who's providing the service. You're hiring a surgeon, you care who it is. You're going to research who it is. There's more research that goes into services than products, right? So you could think it's a great piece of content. You could think your website's amazing, but the data tells you. So I recently released this video 2 hours ago. I think it's a great video, but let's look at the data. What are people saying? Are people watching are people abandoning? Are 50% of people leaving after 30 seconds? Doesn't matter what I say. The data tells you. So in every one of these situations, look at the data. You can look down the funnel, right? Like how many people are seeing your stuff, then how many people come to the website. Of the people who come to the website, how many people fill out a form or book a call with you? And of those people, how many buy? And though I don't mean to offend anybody, but the data is the data. I see some people, they're agencies, and their close rate is like 10%. Well, you probably should be 30% or so. And why aren't you closing that? Well, your value proposition isn't clear. Your price is too high. You're talking to the wrong customer. You didn't build up enough value in terms of by the time you got to them, or you're just doing cold calls, so they don't know who you are. You have no reputation, right? Or the issue is that you close deals and meetings that you have, but you're just not getting those meetings. Well, why not? Well, I'm creating all the content. I'm doing all the things that you're saying, but people aren't coming to me. Well, then the quality of your content sucks, and you're not boosting it so the right people are seeing it. If you boost it to exactly the right people, like let's say David Feynman says, "What advice do you have for turning a service-based business into a scalable productized service?" Well, a productized service. Let's say you do Facebook ads for dentists. Well, that's a scalable service. That's a productized service goes from a SaaS to a PaaS, a product as a service. How many dentists have you done it for? Do you have a repeatable process that you can publish? Can you turn it into a book? Can you turn it into a webinar? Can you interview these other clients? Can you call that a podcast? Can you spend dollar a day against it on YouTube and Twitter and Facebook? Like I showed you dollar a day, I showed you on Twitter, but it's the same thing on every other channel, right? If I'm very clear that I do it just for dentists, then I should target dentists. If I'm doing it for everyone on the planet, well, that's not going to work for $1 a day. It's not going to work for $1,000 a day because it's not. You haven't zeroed in on exactly this. We have an agency that serves just HVAC technicians. It's called HVAC Growth. Well, what do you think HVAC growth does? That's why I don't promote Blitz Metrics anymore. I'm shutting that down. I've been saying that for a couple of years now because Blitz Metrics doesn't serve any. Okay, yeah, Blitz Metrics. We had Nike, Starbucks, Adidas, Red Bull, the Golden State Warriors, Ashley Furniture. We've had a bunch of huge clients, but that's because of my reputation. We just put it under this agency called Blitz Metrics. But I don't want Blitz Metrics. When I ask you, Daniel, who does Blitz Metrics serve? And your answer is like, I don't know. Is it clear who we serve? No, it's not, right? So I'd ask any
Mm.
of you guys but we serve everybody. We serve veterinarians and we serve roofers and we serve landscapers and we serve real estate agents and we serve your mom who's selling cookies on the internet. No, usually this issue is like to do number. Yeah, Rob asked, who deserves to be number one for a search term? Whoever actually has the best answer. And the way you determine the best answer is you drive traffic to it. And if people stay and watch your video, if people stay on that landing page, if people buy your product or service, because Google can see whether people are buying. Google, especially through local businesses, they can see whether people are converting. That's the best signal, right? Rob says, I had a client once tell me his customers, everyone with ears, acoustic engineer. Yeah, exactly. We serve nobody. Oh, we serve small businesses. No, small business is a category of other. That's not a very, very, very specific niche. Biggest issue with businesses that are under $10 million a year is they don't have one niche, right? Everyone I know with businesses that are over 10 million a year, they serve one. Oh, but I don't want to narrow down to the one thing because if I serve everybody, I can. No, it's the fact you're trying to serve everybody that prevents you from even getting to $1 million a year.
It's interesting because that's probably the most common issue that I see. And it's interesting because it's very illogical. People fear that by focusing their targeting, they're going to lose out, but actually makes life a lot easier because instead of writing website content for everyone, you're writing it for a specific group of people and you know what they
Yep.
want to hear.
And
You're
it's
thinking
repeatable.
about,
And you build a reputation around that one thing. Everything scales when you do the one thing. When you go to Chick-fil-A, I don't know, Daniel, what you eat, but Chick-fil-A, what do you
I
think of
like
when I say
Chick-fil-A.
Chick-fil-A? And you think about the chicken sandwich. They don't serve
Mm.
spaghetti or hamburgers or roast beef, or they don't serve it. It's very clear. Do the one thing. Because if you try to do everything, then you're freaking Cracker Barrel or you're trying to be you're a cafeteria, okay? When you think of like really quality food, do you think of cafeteria?
No,
You
you
guys are
don't.
all cafeterias. That's the problem.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think when you're everything for everyone, you're nothing for no one. I'm not sure the
Exactly.
logic makes sense, but it's interesting because it's one of the issues that I was talking to the community about. I have great brand awareness within the community, but what happens is people come to me and they say, "Who's the best person for SaaS PPC?"
Hmm.
They're not looking for the best generalist. They're looking for the best person for their industry, for their problem
Hmm.
or their
Hmm.
perceived problem. So my last question before we get going, I wanted to learn a bit more about, so for those businesses that know they need to create content, but they feel kind of overwhelmed with, do I do a podcast, a YouTube channel?
Hmm.
Do I like start a interview series? How should they start thinking about it?
Very easy. So what we talked about earlier was the ikigai, the intersection of what you like to do, what makes you money, what people want, niching
Hmm.
down. Riches are in the niches. This whole conversation we had is like doing the one thing repeatedly, demonstrating that you do the thing so that Google can see it, ChatGPT can see it because you put it in multiple places because there's proof of you doing the thing. Okay, so assuming everyone understands that, then what you do is one thing. You declare that you have a podcast. So if I am serving dentists, I'll call it the Dental Heroes podcast. I interview all these other dentists or people in the dental industry, could be competitors, could be anybody, doesn't have to be existing clients. And then you get on a Zoom call like we did today, right? And you ask them a series of questions, and ChatGPT can help you with the questions and whatnot. And what you don't want to do is shill. What you don't want to do is turn it into a testimonial kind of thing. Right? The ideal time is 30 minutes to 45 minutes. Anything beyond 40 minutes, people start to lose energy. Even professionals have trouble keeping the energy beyond 40 minutes, and most people don't stay that long anyway. So you just record 10 episodes, right? 10 Zoom calls. So, figure out the topic of your thing, reach out to 10 people. Some people will maybe reach out to 30 people because some people say no, right? And say, hey, I have the podcast. Oh, but most people at this point is, oh, I'm a nobody. No one wants to be on my podcast. I don't have any knowledge. I have these like fears about not knowing how to do a podcast, or I need fancy equipment. Like, no, you need a freaking Zoom account and that's it. Okay. And like a decent
Mm.
Wi-Fi connection, hopefully, right? And then you interview these people. You have 10 episodes. Each of those episodes, you can use Opus Clip or Descript or whatever, CapCut. And now you've got 5 or 6 little snippets from each of those Zoom calls. That becomes articles and blog posts and YouTubes and everything on your site and all that. And that's all you need to do, 10 Zoom calls. That's your podcast. That also covers your YouTube and your Facebook and your Instagram and all that. That helps you with AI rankings. That helps you with SEO because when you turn that episode, like this thing here, Daniel, I hope we turn into an article on Online Geniuses, right? Because then
Hmm.
I'm going to link to it. If you do that, I'm going to link to it and I'm going to promote it, which is good for you, good for us. Because I see, Neil Patel and all these other friends of mine, they've been on this thing here, which is why I was like, okay, sure, I'll be on your podcast. I see all my buddies are on the podcast, right? And so you're solving search and social and AI rankings at the same time through a podcast. Because a podcast, you sit down with someone who's knowledgeable, you don't have to have the knowledge. Like Daniel, of course, has knowledge in online marketing, but he's interviewing me, so I'm doing 80% of the talking, right? So I don't have to have knowledge in the thing I want to be perceived knowledgeable about because I just need to ask questions of them. So that overcomes my,
Mm.
well, but I'm an idiot. I don't know anything. Yeah, that's why you're the podcast host and you're asking them the questions, right? Then I have this episode, and let's say I interview Neil Patel. And then I take that thing and I'll say, and I post on Twitter and Facebook and YouTube, and I'll say, hey guys, I asked Neil Patel 5 questions on what you would do to drive more phone calls for the cosmetic dentist, right? Because let's say that's the thing I do. I have an agency serving cosmetic dentists. Okay. And then I ask Neil Patel all these questions. And then I target all the people that are dentists. And a lot of them will know who Neil Patel is, or maybe they won't, doesn't matter. But I take all the content, these 10 episodes I've created, and I target all dentists, every people who are members of the American Academy of Cosmetic Dentists. I target all the people who are at the conference for cosmetic dentists. I target people who buy equipment from these places that sell to cosmetic dentists, like whatever equipment they have. I target everyone in the industry that I serve, right? Because it's super
Mm.
relevant. Because the content is, here's 10 things to help cosmetic dentists, whatever, close more patients, rank on Google, whatever it is. And like, oh, I'm a cosmetic dentist. This is for me. So I literally showed you how I just did that a few minutes ago. It's not hard to do. It's always this mental barrier. Oh, it's so much effort and I need to hire a professional. And this SEO thing's so difficult. I got to hire an SEO person. If you think you need to hire an expert at every one of these stages, you're never going to get there. Okay. And it's not as hard as you think. Oh, it's easy for you to say because you've been doing it for 35 years. Dude, there are
Mm.
15-year-olds in our program that are doing this. Okay.
It's interesting. I always feel that the fear of the consequence is always worse than anything that could happen. I think it's particularly prevalent in British culture where
Yeah.
we don't want to make a mistake. So I see that. I really love this because that's a really practical tip that we can leave with people where they can just jump on 10 Zoom calls, record it.
Hmm.
And even with these like Opus Clip tools, it's so easy to edit nowadays. I'm going to leave people with that. Hopefully in a month, they'll come back to the Slack and they'll be like, hey guys, here's the channel that I created. Here's the content that I created. Be cool to see that. Is
Yeah.
there
And put it out
anything
there.
is there anything you'd like to leave people with? Any contact details? I see you've got a presence virtually everywhere. Where should people predominantly search for you?
Google me. And then I'm there. You'll see I have a knowledge panel. I want you guys to have a knowledge panel. If you will make your YouTube channel or podcast and start doing this, most people don't, even though it's like the most obvious, highest ROI thing that you could do. But if you do that and you want me to take a look at it, just tag me, right? Or if you want to message me or like message me on any channel, my email is dennis@blitzmetrics.com. I want to see people actually succeed in this. And I've coached lots of people through it. And most people, as you said, Daniel, they don't do it for some silly reason because they're afraid of being ashamed or embarrassed or how they look or whatnot. You know what the worst thing that can happen is that no one sees any of your content. It's not, I mean, the fact that it's as you start to build momentum and reputation, people start to see it. So as you get better at communicating, more people will see you. I didn't even speak English until I was 6. Okay. I've been an engineer hiding behind the scenes. I don't want to show my face because I'd just rather be an engineer. And that's been my whole life. And I've learned that even I have to come out and show my face. Oh no, but I'm an engineer. I don't want to show my face. Right. Well, people, if you have a services business, people buy from people. So I'll leave you guys with that last thought. If that's the thing that's keeping you from doing, because you're going to procrastinate, make all these excuses for why, oh, not right now. I'm too busy. And dude, just start with one Zoom call. Okay. Watch what happens in a few months. And you'll be so glad. Dang it. I'm so glad I came to that AMA with Dennis, and that's when my business started to take off, and I overcame that limiting self belief.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And also, I think it's really generous of you to, enable people to contact you, ask for feedback. So thank you so much again, and we'll be in touch.
Awesome, Daniel. Can't wait to repurpose this and then elevate you. Like, shoot me the URL, shoot me the YouTube. I know it's in a live Zoom call, but 90% of the traffic is going to be from people who watch a replay, right?
Mm,
Vascar says he missed the first half. Yeah, that's totally fine. That's why you record these things.
it is indeed recorded. Cool. Okay, we'll be in touch. Cheers,
Awesome.
Dennis.
Thank you, guys.
Ciao.